The man walked into the small veterinary clinic, his long black coat dripping from the light rain outside. He pulled back his hood, revealing familiar features: dark hair slightly unkempt, a chiseled jaw, and eyes filled with quiet urgency. The receptionist barely glanced up at first, busy typing away on her computer. But then she did a double take, her eyes widening slightly before she masked her reaction with professional politeness. "How can I help you?" she asked, her voice neutral. He adjusted his grip on the small, trembling dog in his arms. The little creature, a scruffy-looking mutt with damp fur, whimpered softly, its tiny body shivering. Keanu Reeves gently stroked the dog's head, his expression tight with concern. "I need a vet," he said, his voice calm but urgent. "He's hurt." The receptionist glanced down at the dog, then back at him. "Do you have an appointment?" Keanu shook his head. "No, it was an accident. I found him like this. He needs help." She hesitated, her eyes flicking toward the back of the clinic. "Let me check with Dr. Simmons." Disappearing behind a door, she left Keanu standing in the high, quiet waiting area, the dog still nestled in his arms. The room smelled of antiseptic and pet shampoo. A couple sat on one of the plastic chairs, holding a cat carrier between them. A young boy flipped through a magazine, swinging his feet. Minutes passed. Keanu shifted his weight, his patience thinning. The dog let out another soft whimper, making him tighten his grip protectively. Just then, the door swung open, and a man in a white coat stepped out. Dr. Simmons, a middle-aged veterinarian with sharp eyes and an air of authority, looked Keanu up and down before speaking. "I'm sorry," he said, his tone clipped. "We're fully booked today. You'll have to take your dog somewhere else." Keanu blinked, taken aback. "It's an emergency," he said, keeping his voice steady. "Can't you just take a quick look?" Dr. Simmons sighed, crossing his arms. "We have policies. We don't take in walk-ins without appointments. Besides, we don't treat strays." The words hit harder than expected. Keanu glanced down at the dog, whose trustful eyes looked up at him, unaware of the rejection. "He's not just a stray," Keanu said, his voice quieter but firmer. The vet shrugged. "Look, there are shelters that take in injured animals. I suggest you try one of those, but we can't help you here." Silence stretched between them. Keanu clenched his jaw, his usually calm demeanor flickering for just a moment. But instead of arguing, he simply nodded once, turned on his heel, and walked out into the rain. The receptionist watched him go, something uncertain in her expression. The other people in the waiting room exchanged looks, some recognizing the man who had just left. Dr. Simmons, however, dismissed the moment with a shake of his head. "Some people think money or fame can bend the rules," he muttered, returning to his office. But he had no idea what he had just done, no idea who he had just turned away, and soon he was going to regret it. Outside, the rain had picked up, falling in steady sheets against the pavement. Keanu adjusted his grip on the small dog, shielding it as best he could from the cold. The little creature whimpered again, nestling closer into his chest, its tiny body shivering from more than just the rain. Keanu could feel the fast, uneven rhythm of its heartbeat, and it only made his jaw tighten. He had dealt with rejection before. Hollywood was full of it. But this wasn't about him. It was about the helpless life in his arms, the one that had done nothing to deserve being turned away. He took a slow breath, steadying himself. Getting upset wouldn't help the dog. He needed a solution, not anger. As he stepped out onto the sidewalk, he glanced up and down the street. It was late enough that most businesses had already closed, the glow of their signs dimming under the rain. A few people hurried past, shoulders hunched against the downpour. He needed another vet, one that wouldn't ask questions, one that would help without hesitation. Reaching into his coat pocket, he pulled out his phone, quickly searching for nearby animal hospitals. His fingers hovered over the screen for a moment before he pressed a number. The call rang twice before a warm, familiar voice answered. "Hey, Keanu, long time no talk." "What's up?" Keanu exhaled slightly, relieved. "Hey, Jenny, I need your help." Jenny Lang was an old friend, a veterinarian who had dedicated her life to rescuing strays and neglected animals. She wasn't the kind of doctor who turned people away. "What's going on?" she asked, instantly alert. "I found a dog. He's hurt and a clinic just refused to treat him. I don't know how bad it is, but he needs someone to look at him." There was a pause. He could almost hear the irritation in her silence, not directed at him, but at the clinic that had turned them away. "Where are you?" she asked. "Near Westwood." "Bring him to my place, I'll get everything ready." Keanu didn't waste another second. He moved quickly, heading for his car. As he drove, he kept one hand on the wheel, the other gently resting on the dog's small body, feeling the rise and fall of its breath. It was steady but weak. 20 minutes later, he pulled up to a modest house with a dim porch light flickering against the rain. Before he even knocked, the door swung open, revealing Jenny. Her brown hair tied back, wearing a hoodie and scrubs, eyes sharp with concern. "Come in, hurry." Keanu stepped inside, the warmth of the house a stark contrast to the cold outside. The living room was cluttered with blankets, pet carriers, and shelves stacked with medical supplies. A calico cat lounged on the couch, watching them with lazy interest. Jenny led him to a small examination table set up in the corner, already pulling on gloves. "Set him down here," she said. Keanu carefully placed the dog on the table. It whimpered softly but didn't resist, its energy too drained for that. Jenny's hands moved gently but efficiently, feeling along its tiny frame, checking for fractures, bruises, anything that might explain its pain. "What happened to him?" she asked. Keanu shook his head. "I found him like this. I was walking near the park when I heard him whining from under a bench. No collar, no tags, just scared and hurt." Jenny sighed, her expression softening as she checked the dog's eyes and gums. "He's dehydrated, malnourished, and—" She pressed lightly against its ribs, frowning. "I think someone kicked him." Keanu's fingers curled slightly at his sides. "Someone hurt him?" Jenny nodded grimly. "It's not uncommon. A lot of people treat stray animals like they're nothing." Keanu exhaled slowly, rubbing a hand over his face. He had seen plenty of cruelty in his life, but it never got easier. "Can you help him?" "Of course," Jenny said without hesitation. She moved quickly, setting up an IV for fluids and pain meds. "He's going to need rest, food, and time to heal, but he'll make it." The tension in Keanu's shoulders eased slightly. He reached out, gently running his fingers over the dog's scruffy fur. "Thank you," he murmured. Jenny glanced up at him, studying his face. "So, which clinic turned you away?" Keanu hesitated, but then he said it. "Simmons Animal Clinic." Jenny's jaw tightened. Figures, he only cares about high-paying clients. "I've heard stories about him turning away strays before, but I didn't think he'd do it to you." Keanu gave a wry smile. "I don't think he realized who I was." Jenny shook her head, muttering. "Even if he did, I doubt it would have changed anything. That guy only sees dollar signs." A silence stretched between them. Jenny focused on tending to the dog while Keanu watched, still running his fingers over the soft fur, his thoughts heavy. After a moment, Jenny spoke again. "You're not going to let this go, are you?" Keanu glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I do know that no one else should have to go through this." Jenny sighed. "If you go public with this, it's gonna blow up. People love you, Keanu. They'll listen." Keanu looked down at the dog, now resting more peacefully. The thought of another helpless animal being turned away made his stomach twist. He didn't want to fight, but he wasn't sure he could walk away from this either, and Dr. Simmons had no idea what was coming. The little dog let out a soft sigh, shifting slightly under the warmth of the blanket Jenny had wrapped around him. His breathing was steadier, now no longer labored and uneven. Keanu watched him, his fingers absent-mindedly stroking the scruffy fur. A small life, discarded and hurt, left to suffer because someone decided he wasn't worth saving. Keanu had always believed in kindness, in doing what was right no matter how small the act. But this felt different. It wasn't just about one dog. It was about the kind of world that let things like this happen. about people in power who chose profit over compassion. Jenny moved quietly around the room, preparing supplies and checking the IV drip. She glanced at Keanu, reading the thoughts, playing behind his eyes. "You're thinking about it, aren't you?" He exhaled, rubbing a hand over his face. "I don't know if calling him out publicly is the right move, but I can't just let it slide." Jenny nodded. "I get it, but you should be ready for backlash. Simmons has connections, rich clients, corporate donors. He won't go down." Quietly. Keanu wasn't worried about himself. He had dealt with rumors, false stories, and invasive media before, but he didn't want Jenny or anyone else getting caught in the crossfire. A soft knock at the door broke the silence. Jenny frowned, wiping her hands on a towel before heading to answer it. The door creaked open, revealing a young woman, her hair sticking to her forehead from the rain. She hesitated before stepping inside, eyes darting nervously between Jenny and Keanu. I heard you take in animals," she said quietly. "I wasn't sure where else to go." Keanu sat up straighter. Something about her tone put him on edge. Jenny gave a reassuring nod. "You're in the right place. What's going on?" The woman took a deep breath, then carefully pulled back the edges of her jacket. Nestled inside was another small dog, shaking violently, its fur soaked through. Keanu felt something cold settle in his stomach. Jenny reached for the dog immediately, her professional instincts kicking in. "Where did you find him?" The woman hesitated. "Near the old market. There was a whole litter, but I could only carry one. The others ran." Keanu and Jenny exchanged a glance. "What did they look like?" Keanu asked, voice steady. The woman swallowed. "Like him," she said, motioning to the first dog. "Same size, same kind of injuries. It looked like someone—" She trailed off, shaking her head. "They were just dumped there." Jenny carefully examined the new arrival, checking for injuries. "This isn't just random neglect," she murmured. "This is organized." Keanu leaned forward, his mind racing. First, a single injured dog. Now a whole litter found in similar conditions. This wasn't coincidence. Someone was abandoning these animals, and it wasn't out of ignorance. It was deliberate. The woman shifted on her feet. "I tried taking him to a vet first. They turned me away." Keanu felt his jaw tighten. "Was it Simmons?" The woman blinked, startled. Yeah, how did you know?" Keanu sat back, inhaling slowly. This wasn't just about one heartless decision by a greedy vet. It was bigger. Much bigger. Jenny, still focused on the dog, didn't look up when she said, "If Simmons is turning away injured strays while profiting off high-end clients, there's a reason. And I'm guessing it's not one we're going to like." Keanu nodded, his mind already working through possibilities. There was something deeper happening here, and the more he thought about it, the clearer it became. Someone was discarding these animals knowing they wouldn't be helped. The only question now was, why? And just how far did this go?